Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Eileen Flores, and I'll be going over Bandura's theories and how it applies to a forensic mental health setting. Today, I'll be presenting on the life and work of one of the most influential figures in psychology, Albert Bandura. His research on social learning theory and self-efficacy reshaped how we understand behavior, learning, and change, especially within clinical and forensic mental health settings. As a licensed clinical social worker working in a forensic setting, I find Bandura's work particularly relevant and useful. What makes his theory so compelling is that it doesn't rely solely on consequences or rewards to explain behavior. Instead, it emphasizes the powerful roles of observation, environment, and one's belief in their own abilities. In today's presentation, we'll explore Bandura's background, his major theories, their application in forensic and clinical work, cultural and ethical considerations, and how I personally apply his ideas, especially through the Bobo doll experiments in group therapy with forensic clients. Background, birth, and early childhood. Albert Bandura was born on December 4, 1925, in Mundare, Alberta, a small farming town in Canada. His parents were immigrants, his father from Poland and his mother from Ukraine. Despite the rural and under-resourced environment, Bandura's parents placed a strong emphasis on education. Growing up in such an environment with few structured learning opportunities, Bandura became what we might call a self-directed learner. That early sense of autonomy and responsibility for his own development would later become a cornerstone of his psychological theories, particularly his emphasis on agency and self-efficacy. Bandura went on to earn a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of British Columbia, and then completed his PhD at the University of Iowa in 1952, then a major center for behavior research. Although Bandura didn't report any traumatic family dynamics, his upbringing in a tight-knit, resourceful community contributed to his belief that individuals can learn a lot through their social environment, through observing others, rather than only through direct experience or conditioning. That belief directly challenged the dominant behaviorist ideas of the time. Social Learning Theory Overview. Let's dive into the cornerstone of Bandura's contribution, social learning theory. Introduced in 1977, this theory explains that people learn by observing others, and it includes four processes: attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. To illustrate this, we turn to the famous Bobo doll experiment, conducted in 1961 at Stanford University. This study was designed to answer a major question: can children learn aggression simply by watching others without being rewarded or punished for it? The experiment involved 72 children aged 3 to 6, divided into three groups. One group saw an aggressive adult model behaving violently toward an inflatable clown doll called Bobo. Another group observed a non-aggressive model calmly playing with toys. A third group, a control group, didn't observe a model at all. In the aggressive condition, the adult hit, kicked, and even used a mallet on the Bobo doll, shouting phrases like "pow" and "sock him in the nose." This modeling session lasted about 10 minutes. After each child was taken to another room with both aggressive and non-aggressive toys, including a Bobo doll, the results were powerful. Children who observed the aggressive model imitated the same aggressive actions and phrases. Some even invented new forms of aggression. In contrast, those in the non-aggressive or control group showed significantly less aggression. This experiment proved that behavior can be learned through observation, not just through reinforcement. It challenged the dominant behaviorist theories of the time and laid the foundation for cognitive behavioral approaches. In my role as an LCSW working in a forensic setting, I find that social learning theory is not just an academic framework. It is a lived reality for many of my clients. In group therapy sessions, clients often describe growing up in homes where violence, substance abuse, or criminal behavior were normalized. Many witnessed domestic violence between parents or caregivers, physical and emotional abuse directed at them by adults who were supposed to protect them, drug use by parents or family members, or the incarceration of one or both parents at a young age. These clients weren't just told how to behave, they watched behavior being modeled every day in deeply impactful ways. From a young age, they learned that aggression, manipulation, or shutting down emotionally were acceptable or even necessary responses to survive. When I share the Bobadil experiment during group sessions, it often resonates immediately. Clients start to recognize that many of their current behaviors are modeled adaptations, not inherent character flaws. It opens the door to important conversations about choice, change, and agency. Many express a mix of grief and insight. Grief for the childhoods they didn't get to experience, and insight that they now have the ability to unlearn and relearn more adaptive behaviors. In this way, Bandura's work becomes practically therapeutic. I use positive peer modeling in groups, encourage clients to reflect on the behaviors they grew up observing, and facilitate the development of new scripts for communication, emotional regulation, and conflict resolution. By reinforcing the ideas that behavior is learned, we also reinforce the idea that behavior can be unlearned and that clients are not damaged or defective but shaped by their environments. This aligns directly with Bandura's premise that people can be active agents in their own development once they're given the tools, support, and safe environments to learn something different. Reciprocal determinism and self-efficacy. Bandura didn't stop there. He expanded his theory with the concept of reciprocal determinism, the idea that behavior is not just shaped by environment, but also by personal factors and by the behavior itself creating a dynamic loop. He also introduced self-efficacy, the belief in one's own ability to succeed in specific situations. This concept is incredibly useful in forensic mental health. Many individuals I work with struggle with deeply ingrained beliefs that they are incapable of change or undeserving of rehabilitation. Many of them will say, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks," or "I am the way I am and I'm never going to change." Bandura's work gives us a framework to challenge those beliefs and helps clients to rebuild a sense of agency. Broader applications. Bandura's theories have had broad influence. In health psychology, they inform behavior change programs. In education, they shape classroom management and motivational strategies. In forensic psychology, Bandura's work contributes to the risk need responsivity known as RNR model, which helps assess and treat offenders by focusing on behavioral change through modeling, skill building, and cognitive restructuring. This model is especially powerful in group settings where clients can observe positive peer behavior and start to internalize new models of communication, conflict resolution, and goal setting. Impact on mental health practices. In clinical settings, social learning theory has become a foundational element in many cognitive behavioral therapy approaches. It helps us understand that maladaptive behaviors, including those linked to criminality, are often learned, not biologically predetermined. In my role, I apply these principles in both individual and group therapy using role play, peer feedback, and structured reflection to help clients observe and practice alternative behaviors in a safe therapeutic setting. Cultural perspectives and worldviews. While Bandura's theory is widely applicable, it reflects certain Western values such as individualism and self-motivation. These values don't always align with the lived experience of individuals from marginalized or collectivist cultures. This is especially relevant in forensic settings. For instance, Black Americans are incarcerated at nearly 5 times the rate of white Americans. Many clients come from environments where violence, instability, and limited access to resources shape their learning experiences. Bandura's theory remains helpful, but only when we contextualize it within broader systems of inequality. As clinicians, we must understand that not everyone had equal access to positive role models or supportive communities. Systematic biases within Bandura's approach. Despite its power, social learning theory has its limitation. Bandura paid little attention to biological, neurological, and trauma-related factors that affect learning. Modern research, such as Bessel van der Kolk's work in The Body Keeps the Score, shows how trauma changes the brain, memory, attention, and learning can all be impaired by early or chronic trauma, meaning that observation alone isn't always enough for change. This is why I integrate Bandura's theory with trauma-informed care. For many forensic clients, learning new behaviors requires safety, trust, and emotional regulation skills, not just exposure to positive models. Ethical considerations. The bubble doll experiment raised ethical concerns even in its time. Children weren't given full consent or debriefing, and they were deliberately exposed to violence. Today, we have ethical standards that protect research participants, especially minors, but similar concerns exist in forensic settings. Behavior programs can become coercive if they emphasize control and compliance over true rehabilitation. As clinicians, we must use Bandura's principles to empower, not just to correct. That means fostering self-efficacy, autonomy, and dignity, especially among vulnerable populations. Personal reflection and application. Bandura's work is more than just theoretical to me. It's something I actively use in my day-to-day practice. I regularly draw on social learning theory to structure group interventions, encourage peer mentorship, and help clients reframe their identities. I found that referencing the Bobodal experiment often sparks insight amongst clients. They begin to see how much of their behavior was absorbed from their surroundings, and more importantly, that they can relearn and reimagine new ways of being. When paired with trauma-informed strategies, Bandura's theory becomes a powerful tool for rehabilitation, not just behavior management, but real lasting change. When I become a forensic psychologist, I plan to still incorporate peer mentoring, modeling, social support, and realistic goal setting and interventions with incarcerators male, integrating Bandura's framework with trauma-informed care.